guitar would kind of start, if you hear it. It starts, and the other way is like this. So it just felt, and my finger can move around.
You were born in Ireland? What?
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I was born in the southeast of Ireland, in a place called, well, first of all, I should say where I was really born, or else my cousins will kill me. I was born in the county to the left of Dublin, in County Meath. And first 5 years of my life were up there. And then my parents bought a pub down in County Wexford, the southeast of Ireland. And I grew up in there.
They bought a what? I'm sorry. I'm just so bad.
Sorry, they bought an Irish pub, a pub.
Oh, a pub. Okay, sorry. Yeah. Nice.
So I lived in a pub serving drinks, God knows what, as a 5 to 10-year-old. And after that, we moved out into the country.
Oh, wow. Did your parents keep the bar or no?
No, I mean, it's a lot of work. And my father had a car crash in the first year, in the first couple of months that they bought the pub. And so it was kind of just trying to catch up. I hate to say it was just trying to catch up with them, but they killed it. They absolutely killed it. So they did really, really well, considering they had 7 kids. Oh, a car crash that nearly killed my dad. And how do you do that?
That is what I mean. 7 kids. Wow. So where are you at in the list of 7? Are you older, middle?
I'm number 6.
Number 6. So, okay.
Yeah.
What's the age difference between you and your oldest sibling?
There's 10 years between myself and it's literally I'd say 11 months between each child nearly.
Oh, wow. Okay.
We call it Catholic twins. Sure. It was just like that. I mean, many of my friends come from larger families, and it's only in probably the last, the generation that are having kids now that it's much, much smaller families. What about America? Would it have been similar? No, not at all.
I mean, actually thinking about it, like my parents' generation and even my wife's parents, my wife's mom is from the Philippines and she has a massive family, like 14 siblings. But her dad has a lot of siblings as well. He's from Chicago, and same with both my parents. There's a lot of kids in both families, and then I only have one sister. My wife has one brother, so it's usually, I mean, I see as it scales down, I mean, it's usually 2-3 kids. Here in Tennessee, I've noticed a lot of the families are a bit bigger. You'll see families that have a lot more kids. Usually average at least, I would say, 3 kids. Most families here, but in California it was not like that. I don't know if it's because the cost of living is way higher. I really have no idea. But I came from my sister's actually 11 years younger than I am. So we had a huge gap between the two of us. But so oh my gosh, with six siblings, I mean, I would imagine your oldest sibling is kind of having to babysit downward, or how does that work?
I often ask my dad how did the two of them manage, and he said, you just kick one of the kids in front of you as you're walking, and then hold the other one underneath your arm, and he was joking and saying, you used to babysit each other at one point, and I don't know, when I imagine it, I just like to think of us as, feral animals running around town, and them looking after the pub. But actually we were pretty, we were well-mannered children, actually.
That's good.
I think we were pretty well-mannered, which is, kids were raised differently in my generation, I think. You were kind of raised to be extremely careful of other people and not put other people out. So we would have been very polite mannered, crazy little fuckers. Excuse me, language.
You can cuss.
What we got up to outside of our parents' knowledge, they'll never know. But
sure.
Yeah, it's all good.
What about music in your household? Was anyone else in your family a musician at all?
My brothers and sisters, we all share a common love for collecting music. So we've gained that from both of my parents. My father was a DJ when he was younger.
Was he
Uh,
really like a radio
yeah,
DJ or like he'd spin in clubs?
spinning clubs.
Whoa, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
himself and his brother had a DJ duo, and they used to have like go-go dancers, and
Wow.
yeah, they were pretty hip. They
They
used to
probably
have
have a rad
gigs
collection
coming
of
up.
music.
Oh my God. I recently alphabetized his half of his vinyl collection, and it took me a whole day, you know. Um
Wow.
and I had guns afterwards. God, it was very satisfying though. And my mom is a big adorer of music. You'll find her singing all day listening to the radio. And her father was a political songwriter. He used to sing political songs to piss off the local politicians and keep them in check, which I only found out, like 10 years ago or something. So I wondered,
Wow.
yeah, my
How
mother,
would they find out about it? Like, would he release songs enough to where people would hear them and it would get back to the politician?
yeah, no, they would, usually the politician was in the room. I mean, small communities gathering. So he was always saying something about a job that they did, and if they weren't transparent, he would highlight that, and he would offer solutions to transparency by way of them possibly getting another job or somebody else that would easily do their job better than them, to kind of like, you're being watched.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, he was never well, my granddad was respected. He was a poet, like, and he wasn't unjust. He was just kind of speaking for people, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but he was also really smart, and uh, smart as in clever, funny about it. Um, yeah, so it runs along. It skips many generations as well. But yeah, my brothers and sisters, we also play a couple of instruments. My brother's a great drummer. My other brother's a great songwriter. And we've all kind of worked in the industry via booking or singing or playing in some capacity. So
Wow.
yeah, we're all mad about music.
Did you ever play together, like as a collected sibling band?
Ellie family.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. No, I mean, we've sang together at sessions. I have to say my brother plays music in a really good covers band, and he's out like more days than I could ever hope to be. He's got a better job than I do. And he's a really good showman, and he's very good at bringing rooms together. So we'd often go to his shows,
Hmm.
because it's somewhere where we all can dance and sing, and we all know all the lyrics, and he's just such
Right.
a good crack. So that'd be the kind of ways that we come together with the music. We've never sang together, but I have played with my little brother who sings in the band a couple of times, and that's really adorable, really cute. He's
That's
very good. Yeah.
okay. What about the drummer? Has he ever played on any of your records or anything?
Stephen, yeah, so he's the guy who plays in the covers band. He did play on my second record. I got him to sing a little bit and play some drums on that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, but anytime I asked him, he kind of shied away. Probably because I was mean big sister,
Oh, okay.
which I wouldn't be now,
So you were the one. He was the one younger than you then.
Yeah, he's
The
the one
only
younger
younger
than me.
sim. Your only younger
Yeah,
sibling.
isn't that always the way? Treating my little brother like dirt because I could. It's such a stupid thing to do. Now we get on like a house on fire, but I remember we were just much too old to be throwing punches. We were like, oh God, I don't know. We used to kill each other, but now we're just we get on really, really well now. It's kind
That's
of got over all of that. Yeah, it's cute.
that's awesome. So, what was the first instrument you learned how to play? Was it the guitar?
Yeah, so I got a guitar when I was 6 months. Now that sounds stupid, but it
Six
was just a
months.
toy. Yeah, it was just a toy. But it was beside me, and it was like I suppose kids get attached to their teddies and stuff. I got
Hmm.
attached to my guitar. Um,
Wow.
Yeah, so I've had it in and around me my whole life actually.
Did it have
Um,
strings? Like, was it like a stringed toy guitar?
yeah, it was
Like
like
a,
they didn't make crap back then. My father would have got a half decent kind of something that was, it was a baby guitar. It was the size of a ukulele, except it had 6 strings on it. And I used to use his tie to tie around the strings and then around the neck and go around my shoulder until I
oh,
realized
it's okay.
the tie is covering the strings, so it doesn't work. Um, uh, but yeah, so ever since I noticed that the strings could make a sound, I've just had it around my shoulder. So, as a baby. But the first instrument that I remember was when I was a toddler. It was an accordion. My grandfather had this beautiful pearlescent accordion, and he said, "Wallis, look at this." And I just thought, "Oh my God, it's breathing,"
Yeah.
Um, and he told me that's an instrument, it's called. And I remember thinking, "Oh, this is music, but it sounds like a pair of lungs, it sounds like breathing." And that was one of my earliest memories of music and instruments, really.
Did you continue at all with the accordion, or is it something you just kind of picked up as a kid and put it down?
No, I never did the accordion. It's a bit too hard for me, actually. It's just so it's coordinating, like it's heavy. It's yeah, I love coordinating things. Like I've limb independence, but accordion, I could never get it. I just leave it up to somebody who's good at that. But I
Hmm.
do really enjoy the sound of it. The closest thing that I would do is a shruti box, which is an Indian, has a back pedal on it. You know this thing?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Box, yeah. Really love those. The drone box. But yeah, I love the what is it? Air passing through a what is it? The mechanic of an accordion, air passing through a reed. I love that sound.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm.
That's really cool to have that experience that young. I mean, especially with an instrument like the accordion. Well, I know you had an accident. How old were you when with the accident with your hand?
I was like 18 months old when that happened.
Wow.
So I
So
cut
you're
off.
very young.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it chopped the whole thing off twice actually. So, one every finger was cut twice. My parents told me just as I was home a couple of weeks ago. And they managed to salvage this finger, which is quite exceptional considering like I'm almost 40 now. So it's exceptional to imagine a local hospital really taking care and managing to do such an intense surgery at such my fingers would have been the size of matchsticks.
Right. I mean, 18
Yeah,
months, that is so young.
yeah. So yeah, I mean these things happen, and I was very young, so it didn't play much of a role in my growing up. It was just something that was part of me.
Right.
And as time passed by, as I was beginning to get really into music, say, I don't know, 8 years old in school, people would say, "Oh, but it's so sad you'll never be able to play the piano properly." And I remember thinking at that age, like, why wouldn't I be able to play the piano properly? I'm
Right.
just missing a finger. Anyway, if I was missing 2 hands, I'd still be able to play the piano. I'd still try. Like it's all
Right.
down to what you want to do. So it did affect me in that case. It did make me feel sorry for people who felt sorry for me because I didn't feel sorry for myself whatsoever.
Mhm. That's a great
Yeah.
outlook. I mean, seriously, to just be like, what are you talking about? Like I could do anything that you can do. What are you talking about? Um,
As stubbornness. Yeah.
yeah. Well, were you always a left-handed guitar player? Or were you, or
No.
did you have to kind of switch because of your hand?
Yeah. So I was left-handed, born left-handed, and I was, holding things with my left hand, and it was my preference hand. Um, so yeah, I had to swap over, but like I say, I mean, well, to me, it was my life. I have to look at it like and take it seriously that the guitar was always around my shoulder as soon as I,
Hmm.
could hold anything, it was always there. So I was playing it one way and I had to learn to play it the other way. Which was yeah, seemingly was really annoying because I had bandages on my hand for a long time, and I would be crying because I couldn't play. But um, I mean, I was a baby. It was fine. I was just going to get over it and find something else probably if that wasn't it.
Sure, but I mean, to still have that love and to the point where you're like, I'm just gonna learn left-handed. You know, I want to play
Yeah.
this so bad, and I'm gonna learn left-handed. But what I think is very, I mean, interesting. It's not interesting, but like the fact that you were able to not only play left-handed, but you play it where you play a right-handed guitar upside down,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is like a whole nother level of like using your brain to figure out how to make the chord, right?
hmm Yeah, that happened fairly early on. My guitar strings broke entirely, and my father brought me back to a music shop to restring it. And the shop restrung it standard, which is right-handed. So I took my guitar back, and I was like, "This is not at all the same. This is a puzzle." Now, I guess I was about 6 or 7 at that stage when I was starting to take the guitar seriously. And yeah, it was restrung in standard, and I found something a little bit more like a flower blossoming for me. It didn't begin with the bass notes, it began with the top notes, and there was a much lighter, brighter frequency and feel and vibration to it. So I started playing around, and within a couple of hours I remember the feeling of being like, oh, this is actually even better. So then after that, I never changed. And with time, from being, you know, an 18-year-old upwards, I realized at house parties, everybody's got a right-handed guitar. Nobody ever has a left-handed guitar. So
So it worked in your favor, kind of,
yeah,
right?
yeah. Like any lefties that I meet and they're just starting, I used to consider, I probably shouldn't, I'm not sure if I should, but I asked them to consider learning a right-handed guitar for that exact reason, because it's just a different sound and it's a bit more accessible, I suppose, in terms of traveling and getting around and partying and stuff. House
Yeah,
parties.
the only and I'm sure that gives you such a unique sound and just like a totally different perspective on songwriting, I would imagine as well.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of how it sounds, look, I'll grab my guitar really quickly and show you. Just so the guitar would kind of start, if you hear it, it starts, and the other way is like this. So it just felt, and my finger can move around. I have more freedom with my baby finger. I have more freedom with open sounds, with open D, and it's just generally, I have a bit more freedom of finger movement with the left-handed guitar. So
Is it still tuned standardly? Like, do you just tune it like a
no,
normal ready guitar?
that one is tuned to well, I do standard a lot, but I tend to go with dad gay dad. Wait. Just because it's well, I suppose it's a bit more tribal. It's a bit more
Okay.
tribal. I don't have an ounce of theory. I really tried, but theory never stuck with me. I never learned how to read or write music. So for me, that dad gay is something a little bit more feely, a little bit more. It has pentatonic. It has. You can do standard, but I think standard is slightly too regimented for me. It gives me. I also read that when guitars were made, it was initially supposed to be in the key of dadgad, because a guitar was supposed to be in dadgad because it allows the string to sing. Or whatever, something between the frequencies of the harmonic frequencies, how they vibrate off each other. Something works better with dadgad dad gay rather than in standard, you know. So they say. So I've read. So they say. It's a whole load of lies.
Yeah. Well, what's the only other musician I've ever seen do that is do you know the band the Ataris?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chris Rowe, the singer for this, the guy that writes the songs and plays guitar for the Ataris, does the same thing. He's a lefty. He plays the guitar upside down, a righty guitar upside down. So I
Yeah.
don't know if you could tell that if you like were to listen to the songs. I wonder if it's something that you would be able to pick on a lot. You know, more, you'd be more familiar with what he's doing versus somebody that doesn't play that way.
True. Yeah. I guess it would sound good. Yeah. Yeah. True. It would sound. It would sound different. It's like when I hear somebody playing my guitars. The guitars I play are Lakewood, and whenever I hear a recording of that, I know immediately that that's that guitar. It's like somebody knowing what kind of a dreadnought or a whatever, a Taylor or whatever, something like that.
Uh-huh.
You know the feel of it. Yeah, I
That's
must
interesting.
listen to the Ataris in fairness.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I just
been
remember seeing them for one of the first times I ever saw them play live. I was like, "Whoa! Like, what chord is he playing?" And then I finally realized, oh, he's playing like a power chord, but almost like the opposite. Like his hand is opposite of how it would, I would play a power chord on my end. But yeah, it was just I when I was watching you play, I was like, "Whoa, this is so cool!" Because you have that video on your Instagram of like you're showing like a strumming pattern, like a rhythm
oh
pattern.
yeah. Hmm,
I thought
hmm.
that was really rad that you do that as well, where you're kind of teaching how to play.
Yeah, it's I watch a lot of nerdy videos online, and I should be doing it more because I consume so much learning lessons online that I should absolutely be doing it more. But I'm in the process of setting up a school that taking on kids for that they can just learn my instruments. That's how I'm going to start.
Mm-hmm.
Just taking on kids for free, no cost. You know what I mean? Just bring your guitar and let's sit in a circle and play, and that's
I
it.
love that. That's so cool.
Yeah,
That is
because
so
I
cool.
got so much from other people doing nice things for me. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Sure.
like you should do that.
Pay it
Absolutely.
forward. I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, well, back to you and your music then. So you got the guitar, you had to flip it over, and that all started, you said around what, between 6 and 8, when
Yeah.
you really started taking it seriously. And at what point are you trying to write your own songs? And like what was kind of the next step when you were after you learned, the basis of what you were doing, what was kind of the next step for you?
The singing, writing, and playing came hand in hand. So if I didn't have a guitar in my hand, I remember sitting on the grass as a kid, and I saw the moon and the sun in the sky at the same time. I'd never seen anything like that before. And I wrote a song about that at that moment. And I really liked the feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I would have been about possibly about 4 or something like that. Um, and I remember the feeling. It was summer. I'm sitting in the grass. I see the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time. I've never seen that before. So I sing a song saying how beautiful that is. And the song made me feel good. So I kept repeating it, and that made me learn. And then I took the song and played it with my guitar. And so it was always hand in hand. For me, it's I always consider it just conversing with a friend. Um, that's how it's always been for me. It made me feel not alone. It made me kind of put sense into my experience on this planet. And later on, it developed into trying to make sense of where I am in this world and what my existence means, and if anything at all. Existence doesn't have to mean something. Um, yeah, it's just a process ever since then. It was just given to me, and all I know is that I'm supposed to be doing it, and I'm supposed to give it a load of time, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
supposed to love it and nourish it, and that's all I've ever been doing. I've been lucky enough to being given something that I'm supposed to take care of, and that's the way I consider it. It's a spiritual thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, with that, like, were you always just kind of a solo act, or were you like through high school or middle school, or even up to, because I did read that you went to like you studied songwriting. You moved to what, Dublin, to study songwriting, but prior to that, were you in a band or anything in those earlier years, and were you playing around the area that you grew up in?
Yeah. Geez, I would have been one of them kids that I was kind of hated school, and I just wanted to get out of it for any reason. So usually extracurricular stuff was like choirs or shows or and it always looked like really, really good crack between people. That was always where the really nice teenagers were gathering, and it looked like really good fun to do musicals and all sorts of teenage gathering, community gathering shows and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I've been doing that properly since I was 10, taking part in shows. And I was lucky enough to be in a town, to grow up in a town where that was what you did. That for the summer you were fierce busy with that, you know, hanging out with other kids. There was athletics and gymnastics, sports, and shows. And I was into sports and I was into shows. So yeah, ever since about 10, I've been competing, and well, it's hardly competition. I mean, you take it seriously at the time, but I don't consider art a competition whatsoever. I just really like taking part in team sports and trying to push yourself further for the betterment of the team. So that's what I took from it. Yeah, and then, you know, growing up and going into school, the way to get out of class was to join the choir or help the teachers out doing the musical things, and music was natural to me. So yeah, and then I eventually was like, well, I'm terrible. I was truly not very good in school. I enjoyed it, but I wasn't interested in getting good grades, because I figured, well, sure, I mean, you know, I'm never going to be a doctor or, you know, and I didn't want to get a job. I just wanted to travel, and I didn't see that kind of life for me. So I figured schooling results is not really important to me. I'll find interest in something, because I knew I was good at stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
that's all I
Yeah.
had
You
to go
just
on.
didn't care about doing the school stuff. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, which
Yeah, I
makes
knew I was
sense
going to
to
be
me. I
grand,
mean,
like,
why
you know.
push kid? I don't know. The whole system for me is just kind of mind blowing. Like my son's
Yeah.
going into high school next year, and like he's got to pick a career. Like this high school, it makes you straight up pick a career path and follow it for the next 4 years. So
Yeah.
he's turning 14. He's got to know what he's going to go like do until 18 when he's finished with high school. And then what do what if you're a year and a half in, you're like, I really didn't want to do this. They basically make you continue. So
Yeah.
to me, it just like, I'm like, wait, what? I mean,
Yeah.
there are kids, but if he was really into playing guitar and writing music, that's not a song. That's not a path. You couldn't say, you know what? I want to be a musician. Okay. I'm going to choose musician for the next 4 years. Like that's not, it's like,
Yeah.
you have to choose your lane, but there's only this many lanes you can jump in. So pick one of these. But to me, it just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when it comes to that. But I guess that's why a lot of kids end up going to, university and college and everything. Cause it's like, well, I don't need that if I'm going to do what I want to do for a career right outside of this. But anyways, well, you ended up going to school for music, right? You attended a college in Dublin.
Yeah. And the only reasons why I took it on was because I didn't have other choices, because I didn't have the technical grades, you know. So I thought, well, you know, I mean, there's not much for me, because people didn't take music seriously as a career or something. It was more a hobby. And I suppose I didn't consider it being a hobby until or anything more than a hobby until I remember getting my first paycheck from a gig and was just like, oh, all right. That's weird.
Like I just make money. That makes me a professional at this.
Yeah, it was, what is that? Is that what this is? I mean, you know, but all that afforded me was to go off and do stuff that I wanted to, such as hanging out with friends or heading on a bus to go somewhere. So yeah, I went in and I decided, I was like, look, I think maybe I'm into drama. I've been taking part in all of these drama shows. I'm not very good at acting, but I'll give it a try. And then that course got cancelled, and they were like, would you like to try the music class instead? And I was, 18, still not having a clue what I'm doing. I said, yeah, why not? Why not?
Mhm.
So I did the course, and thankfully my teacher was unbelievable. She taught me, well, very early production, how to engineer correctly, how to set up your studio, and it just feels like it feels, when I explain my life out loud, it sounds almost absurd, because I've been in studios and I've been in industry meetings since I'm 12. I got offered a publishing deal when I was 12, which is,
Wait, what?
yeah, it's meant.
Really? How did that happen?
Well, I was playing with a duo with Eugene Waters and Wallis Bird. We were Wallis and Waters. And well, a publishing guy, a very well-known publishing guy in Ireland who was living in the town where we were playing, was just like, right, I want to work with you. Here's my contract. I get 60, you get 40, and I'll have you on this show, this. And Eugene was all for it, and I knew we were good together, but I was like, I should not be sitting in this room on my own. I'm a 12-year-old.
How old is Eugene?
14.
Okay, so you both shouldn't have been in that room by yourselves.
Not in the slightest. And
Right.
I just remember thinking, well, that's a niche.
Yeah, it's like, okay, let me get this straight. You're gonna make 60%, and then we as a collective are gonna make 40. So realistically, I'm gonna make 20% of everything that I'm doing. Like, what?
Yeah. It was and anytime I asked a question, it was like, good question. And I thought, I shouldn't be in here on my own. And that made me realize that I also didn't, God love Eugene, it wasn't nice for him, but that was that moment as a 12-year-old in a meeting with a high roller, let's say, in Ireland, that I didn't want to work with anybody else. I didn't want to write with anybody else. I wanted to be on my own, and I wanted to be with somebody I trust that knows what the fuck this guy is talking about, because I haven't a clue. So there is signs all the way through my life that my life was already going into a stream very, very early. I bought my own little 4-track Tascam desk that year then, and I was recording overdubs for myself and my friends, and we were doing drum kits. Later on that year, we rented a studio and recorded a 4-track EP with, and I played a full band on that. And then after that, I started learning the computer, to produce on a computer. And it was like, so my whole life has just been kind of stepping stones towards something where I just only recently realized, oh, this is my life. This is a career, because it's only ever been processes of learning and small changes, and there's never been big breaks. There has been big breaks, okay, but I don't even like to consider them as big breaks, because it kind of overlooks the amount of steps that those big breaks take.
Right.
Yeah, so it's my whole life up to this point, I'm consistently learning, which I'm sure everybody can say. Yeah.
Wow. Well, did you end up signing that deal at 12?
No, I was
Okay.
like, even in that room, I was saying, thanks very much, but I don't know if this is going to work.
That's smart. Very smart, especially at 12. And somebody's going to be like, hey, I'm going to be able to do all this stuff for you as an artist. Like, and you thinking like, wow, this is what I want to do. I've been doing that. And this person's going to elevate me to the next level. But to have the smarts to be like, I don't know about this. This doesn't sound too good for me on my end.
Was mental as well.
Right.
I even still considered that. I mean, it's not the same case now, but even up until the day, I was like, you'd want to be pulling some really heavy duty workload into somebody's life for you to hand over 60% of your work. And even to this day, I like, own your masters, own your work, own everything of your work. Because especially nowadays, it's the artist that has to do all of the work. Labels don't take risks. Managers don't take risks. There
I
is no
mean,
voice.
yeah, not anymore, especially with numbers that are, you know, black and white in front of them, right? They're like, oh, this song has 8 million streams and they don't have a label or manager. Maybe I should reach out to them. Oh, this
I
person
know.
has 1 million followers on TikTok or Instagram, whatever it is. Like there's the metrics are just right there for people. I mean, they don't, I mean, there's got to be there's got to be labels out there, people, A&Rs out there that are looking for that. But I mean, a lot of the work's done for them now.
Yeah, yeah. And you talking to all sorts of like you say, legendary and up and coming acts. Like how is it, how you find, what's the story now with new acts? How can you fucking survive in this day and age
I
as an
mean,
artist? What are you finding?
honestly, just keep the most, because I'm going to ask you this at the end anyway. Like if you can give any advice to a aspiring artist, what would it be? And everyone just says like, don't stop, keep going,
Mhm.
keep putting out songs. Like you might have a hit at one point, but even then, like I've talked to a lot of artists that have landed that TikTok, especially within the last year and a half, especially because of, you know, the pandemic. Then people were all jumping on TikTok, and then these songs were generating all of this buzz and even, you know, hitting the radio, and these with basically no budget, right?
Mhm.
Somebody like Lil Nas X's biggest song ever was like he bought the beat for $30. And it's
Deadly.
like, you know, and then he's got the biggest song ever at the time. I mean, I think it's won the most awards like ever. It's been like the most time on Billboard. But anyway, like in this day and age, like anyone can make songs and on like little to no budget. And it's just being able to
Mhm.
build your own, you have to really build your own brand as yourself before even going to a record label is what I've been hearing a lot of. It's like be your own, like build your own, you know, following, your own streams, all that yourself. And then if somebody comes to you, then it's like, okay, I've already done this. Now, what can you do for me? How are you going to get me to the next level, instead of like, I'm desperate, help me get to
Mhm.
the next level. Like it's really about just kind of building yourself up, which is hard. I mean, I don't know how to do that at all. Like, I mean, I wish
Yeah.
I did. I mean,
Mhm.
if I had the the formula to like acquire all this following and stuff, like I mean, that would be an amazing thing to know. But like, it's just interesting to see how certain things will land, and you know, it just kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even when that
So
happens, I've talked to artists that are chasing that. Like you land a huge hit on TikTok, right? And then it's like, oh, now I got to write a song that's gonna. I got to stay in the public or stay relevant. So now I got to put another song. But then it's like, but I need to put out a song that sounds exactly like the one I just did because it worked? It's like, it's this weird, you know, like you're kind of chasing your tail a little bit.
yeah. Oh, that's, you can hear that like chasing your tail in modern radio. I don't know how it is. I mean, America's a huge, huge landmass, but in Ireland we have 22 independent stations,
Mhm.
22 stations that are disconnected. And I mean, I hate to say it, but there's 7 or 8 huge radio stations, and they have between 120 and a million listeners or what have you, which is
Mhm.
we're talking Ireland's a small country, but and the hard hitters on the radio, the ones that get played the most. I hate even hearing this, saying this out loud because I sound old, but it's so homogenized because a formula works. And like say, radios are bought by advertisers now, so they can't even chance risking losing advertising money and advertising budgets. So they have to stick with the things that sound all similar, the
That
things that work.
works.
Yeah.
Right. It's
So
it's unfortunate. It's a weird world, the radio is. I mean, that's what I came from. I did 15 years on the radio. And it's like, and watching that now though is even more fascinating to me because it's like, no, like my kids, my older son gets radio because he grew up with being at shows and stuff with me, and being, I put him on the air a lot and it was stuff like that. Like they, so
then,
he gets it, but his friends don't get it. And my younger son, it was not going to have even a clue because it's just so, it's just like such a Jurassic like form of
right.
media, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
So is
but
it like
it's weird. It's
playlists
really
have
weird.
taken over?
I
And it
feel
sounds
like
like you
for
have more
sure.
choice. Yeah. Well, I do love that. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm a fan of certain streaming operatives, but in terms of the amount of music that I listen to. Like I listen to from anything from abstract niche to, and it's all there at my fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And
You can
never
type in
before have I had
anything.
that. Anything really, like turtle sitting on a block of cheese, and probably somebody has a song about that. You know, it's and it's an amazing world because you can write a song and release it that day. It's
Uh-huh.
that to me is brilliant. I love that. And some people say that that's noise, but I'm like, okay, but I'm listening because everything's
Right.
valid.
Well, that's the thing too, is like there's a ton of noise, but the stuff that cuts through is obviously has draw to it. And again, it's like metrics in real time. Like you can't buy, I mean, you could buy advertising to push a song, but that doesn't mean it's going to do anything. Think of all
Yeah.
the movies that have put out like these insane budgets and all the amount of money they spend into it, then they just flop in the box office because no one cares. Like it's risky. It's now the risk is kind of is much lower for the bigger companies because of that. But yeah, but the radio thing is interesting to me just because here in the States, there's only a couple companies that own a bunch of stations. I worked for one of those big companies, but I also worked for an independent radio station for a long time. And what we could get away with and what we could do is a lot cooler. We didn't have to call like Houston, Texas to be like, yo, like we're gonna add this record. Is that cool? Like, call their corporate headquarters where if I wanted to play a song on the air and it was new and I thought it was cool, I would just put it on. And there's no one telling me. I mean, the program director could call me and be like, "What the hell are you doing? This song sucks." But you usually get it cleared by him, like, "Hey, like this is going to be cool," or him or her, whoever it was. Like, do you think can I play this? Like, I think it's cool, and then they'd go yes or no. But
Mhm.
it wasn't like you had to get the suit in New York to clear it, and
Mhm.
which is different. But in the same regard, like you have to play the songs that are people are familiar with in a
Yeah.
15-minute increment because that's what's going to keep people interested. So if you turn the
Yeah.
radio on, it's going to take you 15 minutes to get to the grocery store and 15 minutes to get home. You better be playing 3 songs, at least 2 of 3 that someone cares about, or they're going to leave and go somewhere else on the radio dial, which is just like such a fascinating thing to me.
Yeah, it's what is it? The coasting feeling. You can't rock the boat too much because life is already hard enough. You don't want to be turning on your media and just be blasted by consistent intelligence.
Right. Exactly. That's
I
why
need to not think for a minute, you know.
yeah.
Ah, I
It's
get it. I
Well,
get
it's
it.
interesting because the in San Diego, we had we're a beach town, and like Bob Marley was like the biggest artist in the planet there. So
Mhm,
like
mhm.
people were saying, and no one ever did it, which I don't understand why, but like there was basically this saying that if you wanted to have the #1 radio station in San Diego, all you'd have to do is just play like Legend on repeat. Just put that record on and just like don't stop it because and somebody's gonna catch it at a different time or even put it on shuffle so it's not playing the same order of the record, but like basically you're gonna keep people engaged for the short period of time that matters when it comes to the ratings of the station
Mm,
because people are gonna stay on it for say 6-7 minutes because they like Bob Marley and then
yeah,
leave, but you know
yeah.
then
Bob
your
Marley
numbers
was
are gonna go
like,
brrr.
yeah, through the roof, and thank God because oh Lord, what like his music was so it ticked all of the boxes, didn't it? It's
Oh
just
yeah, I mean
oh, and
he's
his
obviously
arrangements are out.
one of the
Yeah,
greatest to ever live, but
such a powerful, beautiful, peaceful, loving message. You know, I mean that could be on the radio all day, 24
right.
7.
And it's just yeah, it's just
Because
interesting though.
you're
Like
learning and you're taking home something as well with music like
yeah.
that.
Well, they were
Arrangements
only
are
looking at people in that such a short time limit that like yeah, Bob Marley's amazing, but if you were to sit down and put that radio station on in an 8-hour block, you might be like, okay. And like 3 or 4 days in, I'd be like, all right, I'm pretty much over this album for the next, 6 months. But,
I have a question for you. So you have a song in your head and you can't get it out and you don't like the song. It's horrible, basically. What is your emergency song to get out of your head?
oh man, that's a
Do you
good
have one?
question. I might steal that for future interviews.
Because I have one.
I
When I have something stuck in my head, it's I recommend having one. Bob Marley,
I don't
like
I don't
that's
have
a good
one,
one.
and that's a great idea, and that's something I definitely need to
Steal away.
to steal that question, but and I'll credit you. I'll say I was interviewing
Yeah, I'll be
I was
listening.
I was interviewing Wallis Bird and she told me this. So I'm gonna use this, but I don't know. I'd have to really think about that one. Whenever if I have some stuff stuck in my head or I'm sick of hearing like pop radio or whatever, I will go and like find like a 90s hip hop
Oh yeah.
playlist on Spotify because it's like I like the beat, I like the cadence or
Mhm.
whoever the artist is, and I don't necessarily know all the words, so it's not gonna like I know the hook, but
Mhm.
it's like okay, I can get a different vibe from, and then it might be a song from an artist that I don't know because it's not, or I know the artist, but I don't know that particular song off the whatever record it decides to feed me at the time. But I don't know. What would your song be? I don't have a specific.
I have an emergency song, and it's Delight. Grooves in the heart. It's just
Okay,
it's
yeah, yeah,
hooks into that one. So at any point in that song, you can just go woo or something like that.
yeah. I like that.
One, two, three. There's just 1,000 hooks in that. Will just get the other song out of my head.
Have you ever done a
Yeah,
cover of
I
that
just
one? Because I know you. I mean, you have some amazing cover songs that you do.
I do. Yeah, I grew up doing cover songs. They were my first gigs, 18, 19. Oh,
Uh
sorry,
huh.
17. I was even not, I was drinking in the pub and I wasn't even allowed to at 17, 18.
All right.
Um, Bold Girl. Wow, I'm so rock and roll. Um, but yeah, no, that song actually, no, I've never covered that. It's just
It's too
there's a bit
good.
too much going on in it. Yeah. Like
It
where do you
was
go?
like
Do you go with Bootsy and the bass? Do you go with the drums? Do you go with the singer?
right.
Oh my God, do you do the rap? It's a bit like, no, I'll just listen to it. I won't even bother learning that one.
Okay. I love your cover of the Massive Attack song, Teardrop.
Ah, cheers. Yeah.
That's
What
a
a
great one.
song. Everybody's covered that. I do love a good cover of that song because it's a real indicator of what kind of music the person plays. I think that's a
Right.
great thing about a cover, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Like, how do they see the world through this song? Because everybody knows this song. So it's nice to be given that real deep insight because that song is beloved. It's a bit like, a rite of passage for musicians or something to love that song.
Uh-huh.
And so if you do a cover of it, I think it gives a lot more than the artist. It gives a lot more away than the artist actually thinks.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. What I thought was crazy is here in the state, I don't know if you have the show House out there about the doctor that's on,
Yeah,
he's like addicted to Vicodin.
right, right. I've
They
only ever seen it a
use
couple of times. Yeah, sorry.
the intro, like the theme song for the intro of the show is Teardrop by Massive Attack, which I thought
The
was like
original.
I was like, yeah, I was like, whoa, I believe it's the original. I'm like almost 100% sure it's the original. Now I could have to go check it out, but um, it
Yeah,
is. They
what
use the
a
original. Now I just looked real quick. Yeah, I was like, wow, that's a bold move.
mm.
But it
Yeah,
worked.
for real. Like, yeah.
uh,
Seriously, yeah, you have to live up to that song, whatever you're choosing to pick for, and also famously, Massive Attack are so strict about who they allow to cover that song. They're so strict. I've had a bunch of friends that were not allowed to.
wow.
Um, yeah, we're not allowed to publish their version. Massive Attack just went no, not, and
Interesting.
and, and some of them were excellent, and I loved them, but they were just like, no, not today. So
Wow.
yeah.
That says something about you and your cover then, right? To get the stamp and get the validation that you could actually go forward and put it out.
No, I would, I'd actually, no, that would be omitting a truth because if you cover a song and you don't change a lyric and you don't change a chord structure so that it's indecipherable, then you're allowed to cover it. But
Oh,
if you change a rhythm, if you change a lyric, if you change chord patterns, then you have to
approval.
get the okay, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's interesting.
Even if it's just, yeah, you can cover anybody's song as long as it sounds relatively the same.
Oh,
And
okay.
But if, you know, after you released it, if they still don't like it, then you have to pull it.
Okay. Interesting. I didn't know that.
Well, there you go.
I'm learning so much. Well, I want to get back to you real quick. So, okay, you put out a record or your debut EP independently, and then you end up signing with Island Records. What, the same year? Was it off of that EP?
Yeah, off that EP, I got some TV exposure, got some things went uphill for me very nicely.
Well, tell me about that. Like, what was the moment? Was the draw? How did that happen?
I would like to say that, well, I mean, the song was unusual. It was very, very strange, and it didn't sound like anything that was being played on local radio at the time. But I put it down to my manager, Peter Putz, who was just like bashing down doorways and just being like, "You have to play this song." And then he'd show up to the radio station again and be like, "Did you play that song? I'm listening. I'm staying here until you play that song." And he doesn't talk at all like that. He's a really gentle, very sweet, funny fucking guy. And he's just like, he just went in and charmed the pants off everybody, and they really enjoyed having him around. So they didn't mind that he was being like, "You gotta play the song again." And yeah, I'd like to, I mean, of course you have to have some sort of talent and you have to have some sort of something, but I wouldn't be where I am without my management. Peter Putz and Liz Riches, they were the ideas people. They looked after me. They said what you should do. And, you know, this will help you. They helped me set up my own publishing company, my own recording label. And they said, look, before anybody else takes interest, you must have the most interest in your music. So that's where you should start. And I thought, well, that sounds very like a natural progression, rather than, you know, somebody has to like your music, and in order for you to feel validated about your talent or your worth, somebody has to like you. They just said, you love your music, you should own your music. And so I took it from there, and that was their ethos became my ethos for sure. And that's look of having a good gut feeling about them, about enjoying how they talked with people, watching them talk with people, and enjoying how they represented me, how they would talk about me in a room, and it just feeling like, yeah, I think this is the right person for me and I can trust them. And they're also transparent about business. So I would say a lot of my career worth and ethics towards working with others comes from watching them. Just had a good mentor. Yeah. Good feeling and a good mentor. Yeah.
You ended up moving to Berlin. Are you in Berlin right now?
Yeah, I'm in Berlin right now. Yeah.
Okay. So you ended up moving to Berlin. And what was that? What made that decision?
I couldn't wait to get out of London. So I signed with Island Records and did the album with them. I licensed the album with them. And then after that album was done, I really hated being in a big machine and having to deal with 20 people when I wanted one answer.
Sorry, real quick. Did you move to London? When did you move to London? Was it after college or after going to the?
Yeah, I went to the school in Dublin, and then I moved. I got a scholarship to study in Germany, and I decided to do that for 3 months because that was where the guy, my current manager, my manager, that's where I met him. So I was like, fuck it, I'll go over to that guy. He seems nice. Let me see what he can do. And then I ended up living in Germany for 3 years. Then we recorded the EP. The EP went well. Island picked me up, and then I moved to London, and I stayed there for 6 years. Released an album with Island, released an album with Columbia, and then I moved to Germany.
Okay.
And signed one last Sony deal, and ever since then it's always been like licensing one album at a time. Because you still own your work, and you know, everything comes back to you after a certain period of time. but you own your work. And I've been living in Berlin for nearly 10 years now. Nearly 10
Wow.
years. Yeah, it's a lovely, it's a heavenly spot. It's afforded me a great life, I have to
Hmm.
say. Times are changing.
Yeah,
Like
I'll say.
capitalism is hitting here big time. It used to be the case that, you know, you wouldn't have to work to afford to live. You could just take Joe jobs to afford to live here. And that afforded me a lot of time to think, rather than having to work 2 jobs a day to try and pay my rent, you know,
Hmm.
as is the case also in London and Dublin.
Oh yeah, I heard it's really expensive to live there.
Yeah. I mean, you can't live.
Yeah,
It's not life. No,
that's
it's
yeah.
no life. It's a very competitive, you know, you're fucked. You come home after working your 2 jobs and you just can't, all you want to do is, you know, scroll through your phone and, you know, it's just, you need to think. You need to have time to think, really.
Sure.
Yeah.
But well, like from living when you moved to Berlin, what would you say like your biggest highlight, like milestone moment in your musical career has been up until I want to say up until like after you release Woman?
Ooh, biggest milestone. Um, I think that the big things for me, the big things for me is that things are still going lovely, and I'm happy with how things are going. Um, I think acclaim on a peer level means a lot to me. Um, it's nice to be recognized by people that you love their work.
Hmm.
And that's something that comes with experience. As Madonna says, the most, what is it? The most, not scandalous. It's another word for it's like almost a scandalous, but in an artistic way. What's the biggest thing that you've done in your career? And she's like, stick around.
I like that.
Yeah, so I think there's something to be said about, like, I consistently love what I'm doing. I consistently travel to new areas of what I'm doing,
Mhm.
trying out new sounds, and I'm always enjoying what I'm doing. And I don't consider it, um, you know, that to me is the big milestone. That's the only thing that matters, actually.
Mhm.
But little things that make you go, oh, it's nice that I've put so much work in, is when somebody really awesome, like an awesome peer, says, I really dig your work or something. Then those are it's nice to get that. Yeah.
Sure, sure.
Yeah.
And where were you at when the pandemic hit?
I
Were you
was
on the
in,
road or?
I was actually, I just formed a band, this awesome band with an Irish group called Wyvern Lingo, and we were going to tour for the whole year, and it was going to be brilliant. And then we were playing a live national TV gig, and they were like, "Okay, straight after the gig, everybody put your masks on. You have to go home." And we were at the far side of the country. We didn't think that it was going to be emergency battle station straight away. So I stayed in Germany stay in Berlin for the whole time. Only got home a year later. What about you?
We were in San Diego when it happened, and well, I'm curious. You had a mask. They were already having you guys wear masks before that TV performance.
Yeah, so it was encouraged to. There wasn't even testing or anything like that, which not PCR, antigen testing, which is mandatory here, like 3 times a week. Um,
Still.
no, not anymore now.
Oh, okay.
Everything's chilled quite a bit here now.
Okay.
Before Christmas, it was like, if you were working in an office, it was mandatory 3 times a week test and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah, we had to wear masks. It was, I mean, it was yeah, I mean, you're breathing in other people's air for like fucking 8 hours in a venue. It's rotten when I think of it now. I'm like, never ever going to not wear a mask again in a venue. It's
Yeah.
like
Well, I
sitting
mean,
tube going, I can
what?
smell that person. Like,
Well, like
no.
with the television performance, like what month was that in March?
Yeah, that was in March 19th. So the March 20th was the
Okay.
actual lockdown. So we were driving
Okay.
overnight
Okay, that makes
to
sense
get
then.
through
Because
the
I was thinking
border.
like that was like around that same time when they shut down everything here. I didn't. So I guess yeah, the mask thing would make sense. That was already like in the air. Like okay, we should probably put these on. Like that's why I didn't know if they're like okay, we're shutting everything down, and here's you got to put this on when you leave. But
Yeah,
that makes
yeah.
sense
You're
now.
talking about like Italy is an hour and a half flight from here, you know.
Yeah, I know. It's
So
so everything's so close.
yeah, so you could be in a room. This was it. I mean, it was like that. We had to be careful in case you had it, you gave it to somebody else. So it was like just have to be careful. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I mean, yeah, it's
So
nice. I like the mask actually. I find it nice to be anonymous, and it's also good against the cold and stuff like that. It's like I used to think they were crazy whenever I visited Japan. It's like, why is all where it's mad, and now I'm like, yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
yeah, they've been on it for years, right?
Yeah, 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 and they
Uh,
get cold far less. Yeah.
um, well, now I'm curious to hear about your new record, Hands,
Well,
coming
it's
out what
brilliant, Adam.
May
Yeah,
27th?
yeah, yeah. God, you know your homework. Yes, May 27th is the new album's coming out. And who knows, it could be the last one. I mean, God of Almighty, with the way, yeah,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah.
Well, tell me about the record. When did you start writing it?
I started writing it on the 7th of December. That was the very first session. Normally I wouldn't know that kind of thing because it just writing is a collection of pieces that I've gathered over whatever 20, 30 years or something.
Mhm.
But this one, everything I was empty. I had nothing in the well, and my manager told me I should go and play with Peter, one of his, go and play with Philip, one of his other acts. And I was like, yeah, man, I'll give anything a try because I've got nothing. And went over to his house for the first week in 7th of December.
What is
And
this
I,
2021? 2022,
sorry,
20.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
21, yeah.
So not
And
that long
went over
ago.
there. No, I mean, the whole album started on the 7th of December and then it was finished on the 27th of November. So
Wow.
written, recorded, everything. It was a splurge. It was just, it was very well needed. Obviously, I had, some kind of a gridlock that was dying to get broke down. And Philip did that. He brought a whole new sound, a whole new environment into my life, and a whole new way of thinking about it. Like I gave up drinking. I started exercising. I started meditating. It was a very different approach for me. I thought, well, you've been a party girl, you've been a, stimulants,
Hmm.
and the only exercise that I would get is from touring. And I just thought, why don't I just treat myself nicely and see what happens then. And I mean to say, like, my body couldn't wait. So yeah, it just exploded into creativity. It was great.
Congratulations. Was it difficult to stop drinking?
For me, I'd been practicing for a couple of years. Like I'd go off for a couple
Okay.
of months and then go on hard, and so it just got harder and harder to give up.
Hmm.
And I kept pushing the envelope more and more, and I just realized, look, you're doing this on purpose to see how far you can push it before you give up, aren't you?
Hmm.
Um, And so I've been off it for a year and 3 months now. And
That's
I
huge.
haven't
Congratulations.
thanks very much. Yeah. It's like the benefits that I've got from it way outweigh um any other feeling. And also I practiced drinking my whole life. It was like, come on, do something different. Just try it.
Yeah, I only asked because I haven't drank. I don't drink either, and but I was a similar way. Like I went too hard
Yeah.
all the time, and I was like,
I
well, it's should probably get a grip on my life here. Took other people to
yeah.
tell me that, but hey, it's been nearly 5 years, but
Oh,
I,
fair play.
I appreciate that. But like, I mean, over a year a year and 3 months is incredible. Congratulations! It's so massive.
It's isn't the gains from it are great. It's
Oh
not
yeah.
it's not rock and roll, but fuck it. I mean, want to be around for a bit longer, don't we? Like, you know, we want to be able to appreciate things and not be just covered in a cloud or something. Yeah, 5 years. That's amazing. That's really, really good. What was the point for you that made
Just taking it way too hard and my wife being over it. It
yeah,
was a whole thing. So, yeah.
yeah,
So I gotta stop or I'm gonna lose everything here. So I did. And, after a while, you stop caring. I mean, it's weird. Like you stop having those like cravings for it. I mean,
yeah,
I'm sure after a year you've probably like are probably at that point. I mean, I don't know, but like once you get to a certain point, like I don't like I can be around it now. Like I can drive. It's like I could drive everyone. Like so, I'm like kind of just like the guy that I found a way to have fun and not have to partake, and that was difficult for me to do at the beginning, and I don't know something just finally clicked where I'm like, you know what, who cares?
yeah. Yeah, that also for me was the thing, to have fun without needing to drink or be
Yeah.
around people that were drunk and not need to be on their level. Yeah.
Sure, especially
Or
when it came to like going to concert. I mean, in your line of work, I mean, you got to be out and about all the time, right? And for me, like you'd go to a show and then it'd be like all around these people, and I'm like, well, okay, at least I'm not spending X amount of dollars on this one drink, and like, and it doesn't really matter
yeah,
that much. And then once you like kind of get all the noise out of your head, it just becomes almost routine to where you're like, I don't. I'm fine without this.
yeah. And you find you don't lose anything. You gain uh like you become more present in your friendships,
Mm-hmm.
become more present in the room. Um like I didn't become judgmental. That was one thing that I was like, I'm definitely not going to judge my friends that do drink. And if I'm going out, I'm not going to make a big deal about not drinking at all, because you don't want to make anyone feel uncomfortable or something, or like
Right.
you're being watched or something like that.
But it's also that I felt like I had the other side of the coin where it's like, are people gonna be like, why aren't you like like
Are you
they think I'm
pregnant?
judging, yeah, it's like, but in my brain, it's like that's just my own, insecurities and character defects going like all these people care what I like what I'm doing. No one does, right?
Oh
Oh, he's just
man.
not drinking. It's just like one of those weird warps that you have to just get through at points in your life. And that's still something I have to work on. Like, oh, I'm not on a stage. Not everybody's wondering what I'm doing or care what I'm what I have going on right now. They're just living their own life.
Yeah, that's a very good point for life in general, isn't it? Like
Yeah, it's
you
interesting.
spend so much time worrying about what other people are thinking about you, and they're just not.
Right, exactly. No one else cares. What is it? There's a saying. It's something like I gotta remember it now. It's something like I'm not that I'm not that much, but I'm all I can think about. Like something like I just thought that was so funny. It's so true.
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. I'm not that much, but I'm all I can think about.
Or I'm
Oh
not,
my
yeah, it's
God.
something along those lines. I don't know if I said it perfectly, but it's something along those lines.
That's
Like, yeah,
amazing.
I'm not that much, but I'm all I can think about.
That's
uh,
really good. I'll steal that one.
do it. It's
Let's
all
be
you.
swapping stuff.
I stole it from someone else, and I can't remember, and I don't even know if I'm stealing it correctly.
That's
But
really, really good.
um, but it's just interesting. So that's crazy that you were able to, kind of have those that, totally like life change, and in the same regard, write like a whole record and have it done within what, like a very
A
short
few
period of time.
weeks.
Yeah.
It was outrageous. Um, I love working fast. I love being efficient, but not at the cost of value.
Hmm.
Like I think you can use your tools better and then work and work quicker and smarter. And still, but you're still drawn out from the correct value of everything. Um, so just being around like a maestro, Philip Milner was a maestro, and he's a jazz maestro. So that means the chap has like chords that you just go limp, because how does somebody have that many? Um, I love jazz and I really missed jazz. So I was like, okay, Philip, can you do me as many modulations of this chord as possible? And then, he'd go off for 70 chords. And then I'd say, all right, okay, we're going to use every single one of them on the, on the record, because it makes, and in the end, I can't play it, but I have to learn it. So that's
Right.
a incentive to get me to kick my ass. So
yeah. Well, you say the record's called Hands, and you say it's 9.5 songs for 9.5 fingers. And what's the half song?
The half song is the one with 70 chords on it. It's the last song. Yeah. Okay. And it's almost double the length of every other song on the record. It's yeah.
So it's not really half.
No, it's kind of, I did that because I wanted to explain without saying that the song has multiple parts to it, and I didn't want to cut any part out of it because each one informed the other. And I also liked the idea of saying that a half a song needs to just take as long as it needs to take to tell you what it's about. It's also one with a huge amount of space in it. There's a 2-minute instrumental piece because I'm like, lyrics don't always tell the story, So for some people it's a half song, but for me it's enough. Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. I can't wait to hear it. The song you have out now is called Pretty Lies, right? Is that the only one you've released from the record?
So I did Pretty Lies, and the A side to that song. Pretty Lies is the B side, and the A side is called What's Wrong with Changing.
Oh, okay. So, I've heard that one as well. I didn't know that was on the record as well.
Yeah, they're kind of bookending the album, really.
Okay.
Yeah, I just brought out those a couple of weeks ago. To show off a kind of a political stance at the start of an album, and a humanitarian stance, I should say, and also to show what the live show is going to be like if we ever get back on the road and in venues again. So as a self-fulfilling prophecy or something like that.
I think you'll be back. Yeah, I think there'll be something. I think stuff's sort of opening, or it was, and then it wasn't, and then it was. You had a tour booked, right, for 2022?
Yeah, I have a tour in. Sorry, yeah, I'm hoping to come over to America in summer. There's a couple of things in the pipeline that hopefully they work out, so I'll get over for a short tour in the summer, and there's a tour around Europe in autumn.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of traveling outside of Europe at the moment, I have to see what the story is, Especially there's a war about to happen on my doorstep as well. So it's like,
yeah, I can't even imagine that. And just watching the news here, it's like, yeah, it's scary. And you're really, quite close to all really of that. Yeah.
Yeah. We're only
yeah.
We'll just have to see. Doing benefit concerts and protests and just showing face. Yeah, showing face, trying not to lose our mind in posting the shit out of it, because we're being told by the government to not go crazy posting and to actively seek out correct news sources and to gather your thoughts about what's happening rather than to just go, ah! So,
okay.
I love that kind of leadership. Tell me what to do. Please, a little bit,
Yeah.
Yeah. Somebody that I can't trust. Yeah.
Well, that whole thing is, hopefully it'll end sooner than everyone. Yeah. Sooner than anything. Right. I mean, geez. So
nobody needs war.
No, not at all. But I really appreciate your time. This has been so awesome, Wallis. You've been awesome.
Adam, you're deadly. Thank you so much. A real pleasure.
Well, I have one more question. I'm going to bring it back to your original thought. I want to know if you have any advice for aspiring artists.
I do. Love what you do. Love what you do to death before you hand it over to anybody, before you go looking for teams or validation, love what you do, and do it as deeply and as lovingly as you can. Push yourself and love it before you go to anybody else, I would say.